Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the last session at the LLF. My name is Safinah Elahi. I am a novelist and a publisher, and with us is the lovely Moni Mohsin, who is a satirist, novelist and a journalist. We've had the pleasure of reading her, we've had the pleasure of hearing her, and more recently I've had the pleasure of publishing her. And Moni, welcome, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you, Safinah. Thank you all for coming this evening.
Remember when we were talking about your book in November that we published, The Impeccable Integrity of Ruby R? We were talking that some of Moni's books actually didn't make it to Pakistan, and what a shame it was that she was being published in India, but because of the book ban. Would you like to talk a little bit about that process?
So when I published The End of Innocence, which was my first book in 2006, Penguin UK, who bought the rights, sold it to Penguin India. And after that, Penguin India distributed the copies in Pakistan. No, actually, Vanguard Books bought the rights from Penguin India and published it here. And then after that, all my books were published by Penguin and Random House, India, and they used to be sent to Pakistan. I think the book ban, actually the export ban, or the trade ban between India and Pakistan, when it came into effect, it also affected all the books which were published in India. So we could not have our books, bring our books over into Pakistan after that. So all the readers for my books would call me and ask where they could get copies of my book. And I used to say, I'm really, really sorry, but I don't know where you can get them from. And then suddenly I was approached by Safinah earlier last year, and she said, look, you brought out a new book called The Impeccable Integrity of Ruby R, and I would really like to publish it in Pakistan. And I was so delighted that we had our own publishers now, and I accepted with great alacrity. And so our relationship was born, and Safinah published The Incredible Integrity of Ruby R beautifully. And I was very, very pleased. And then Liberty Books asked if they could publish the Butterfly books. So I was very sad about the trade ban between India and Pakistan, and I hope that it will be lifted someday soon. But in the meantime, it has had the positive effect of galvanizing publishing in Pakistan, which has been the silver lining to that black cloud.
Thank you, Moni, for your kind words. I would request you to read some wonderful passages from your new book, Between You and Me and the Four Walls.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I suspect that most of you are familiar with the butterfly. If you would like me to sort of introduce you to her, I'm happy to do so. But if you want me to just launch into the readings, I'm happy to do that too. So the butterfly is a Begum who lives in Lahore. She went to the Convent of Jesus and Mary, and then she went and got herself threaded at Kinnaird College and got her nails painted. And then she had made this very good marriage to Janu, her husband. They have one child, Kulchu. Butterfly is very keen on socializing, on shopping, and on keeping up with the Joneses. And Butterfly lives in a big fat koti in Gulbarg, and she is she's a chronicler of our times. She's not the most reliable chronicler, but she's nonetheless a good chronicler of our times. So these are entries of her diary that she keeps. This one is from 2014 to 2021. So it's got the rise of Imran Khan, it's got the rise of Trump, it's got the Me Too movement, it's got COVID. So I'm going to read to you. So the butterfly, like a lot of privileged people, butterfly is seriously self-involved, and she sees the world only from her own perspective. She cannot put herself in anybody else's shoes. So whenever things are happening in the world, first I give a headline of what is happening, and then a headline of what is happening in Butterfly's world. So April 2016, Panama Papers reveal that Sharif family's offshore holdings. Butterfly alarmed by infestation of rats in Peshawar. all the chalaks of the world have been investigating their money into this Panama company called Offshore. So Amitabh Bachchan is having shares inside it, and also Aishwarya Rai. Nawaz Sharif and his children are also having, an Iceland Cup president, and even David Cameron's daddy. Obviously, Janu, being the loser that he is, hasn't. Story of our lives. Imran Khan wants to come on PTV to dress the nation and tell us all how corrupt Nawaz is for investigating into Offshore. Same PTV that his gundas tried to destroy in his dharna in Islu. Remember how they rushed in and smashed the cameras and beat up the bichara TV walas and threatened them and then denied it all? Same PTV. Vaise, poor Imran, you know, he's got his hands full these days with his internal party elections and also with the rats. Apparently, rats have overrun the whole of KP. But in Peshawar, they've been attacking children and gobbling up everything. Rice and meats and shoes and clothes and even books. So now they've devoured so many books, they've become very intelligent rats. And also, Sunay, they've grown very, very big. Much bigger, Mallu, my friend, was telling me, than our poor Panju rats, which are dark and small. Nach, Mallu, I said, after all, the ones in Peshawar are Pathan rats, so obviously they're going to be bigger and fairer. No, no, she responded, you don't understand. These are no ordinary rats. They have been generically mollified and deliberately released into Peshawar first and programmed to make their way south into whole of country, eating everything as they go. But released by whom? I asked. By CIA. She whispered. Oh, I said, Sachi? Maybe even by Indians. You know now that we sent that spying pigeon to them, and now, as tit for tit, they've sent this greedy rat to us. These greedy rats are there present to us. But surely, I asked, if they were Indian rats, they would be vegetarians. She said, you have a point, Vaise. Maybe in that case, they've been sent by Israel. Oh, I said, but if they've come from Israel, why are they devouring Urdu books? Bhai, because they are very clever in Israel. Just yesterday, someone told me that Jewish people, they've won more Nobel Prizes than anyone else. So naturally, they can also speak many languages, these rats. But I think so Imran is going to deal with them good and proper. The Israelis, I said, no, the rats. You mean like the Pied Piper of Hamelin? Maybe he'll send them all to Panama. October 2018. Pakistan, story of our lives. Pakistan seeks IMF bailout as government sends mixed messages. Butterfly misses the good old days of General Musharraf. So do you remember when, so this is from October 2018, Imran Khan came to power in August 2018, and he said, when I come, I'll break the begging bowl. You remember? Or I'll commit suicide. So much of confusion these days, so much of worry. Are we taking IMF ka loan, or is Imran going to commit suicide? As he threatened to do if he was made to go begging. Are we going with begging bowl to Saudis, or are we going to have ghairat? Is this government going to continue like this only, or is army taking over? In all of this, you know who I'm missing these days? You'll never guess. Okay, chalo, I'll tell you. But I can't say too loudly because Janu, he will explode. I'm missing General Musharraf. Sachi muchi. Such nice balls we were having during his time, and no one constantly worrying, are we going to get martial law, because we already had martial law. I suppose it's a bit like getting sugar now. All your life you are worrying कि I mustn't eat this jalebi or that cake or those brownies in case I get sugar. But once you get sugar, then at least that worry is over. And you can relax and switch off. So we were relaxing with General Musharraf, and there was no worry about going bankrupt also, because lots of dollars from America were coming, because Americans also love generals now. They loved General Zia, and also they loved General Musharraf. And Mummy says they to just adored General Ayub. Even Jackie Candy, wife of John Candy, top celeb of those olden days, even she came in her beehive and spillbox hat to say hello to us in General Ayub's time. Not like these days when no one is coming. Not even all those expats living in Texas and Manchester, vagaira, not even that Jheelwala doctor who swore the minute Imran won the election, they would come running back with all their dollars and pounds. Liars, jhoote jaise. No one has come except Tabdeeli. Tabdeeli has not only come to rupees and dollars, it has also come to weddings. Yesterday I had gone with my friend Dolly to talk to an event manager for her daughter's wedding. The event manager quoted such an astronautical figure that Dolly and we immediately went into shock. Bhai, why? We gasped. Because petrol has gone up. So are we going to eat korma cooked in petrol? I asked. Please don't do my time waste, he snapped. You order or you go. Look at these people, I swear. So rude, so badtameez, so belihaz. I think so Tabdeeli's also come to manners. Kulchu tells me that there are people on Twitter who are called trolls, who specialize in just doing insults and threats. You say anything they don't like, they immediately attack you like rabid dogs. They weren't there in General Musharraf's time, or if they were there, they were sitting quietly. Bas, that's all I'm going to say. Because Baba, last thing I want is to be trolled. Shall I read one last one before we do it, or questions, or do you want to have questions?
Should we do the questions and then?
Yeah. Okay, I'll read a short one then. This was written December 2020. Actually I'll read this one. July 2021. Government to give overseas Pakistanis the right to vote. Butterfly gives her overseas cousin a telling off. Oof, Lahore has become so bore, that don't even ask. Ek to so much of garmi, then upar se nothing to eat. Now koi mustard is coming, na artichokes, na cheeses, na smoked salman, nothing. All the blessings of Naya Pakistan. Avocados are harder to find than good servants even. When you get some, you just want to stroke them. Oh, Baba, avocados, not the servants. And then put them in a bowl in the middle of your dining room instead of buffets of flowers for everyone to admire and get meaning jealous. Sometimes I think I'm going to die of hunger or boredom. I don't know which is worse. And then today, just as the bearer came and announced that the fridge ka compressor has sarod, and all the kurbani ka meat that the old bag Janu's mother sent from Shahpur has gone bad and needs to be thrown away, and the servants' quarter ki roof is leaking after the rains, and the generator ka petrol has finished, and the driver has come down with dengue. Just then, my cousin Tanya called from LA to wish me happy Bakra Eid. Ab we don't call it Bakra Eid, I said. Okay then, she said, Badi Eid Mubarak. It's not even Badi Eid. It's Eidul Adha, I said to her. What's that? She said. Bakra Eid. Except we're not allowed to call it that anymore. Why? She said. Because it's not respectful and it's not Arabic. Is Barsat still Barsat? Tanya asked. Or is that something respectful now also? No, I said, it's still Barsat, because it's local only. It hasn't come from the Ummah. You know, I miss Barsat, Tanya said. I haven't been in Lahore in the summers and the monsoons for 20 years now. I miss those black, black clouds and that fat, warm rain and the birds calling and the fragrance of the earth and the juicy mangoes and melons and the cool breeze and the sudden thunder. There's nothing like that over here. I said, and the kida makoras and the mosquitoes calling and the dengue and the heat and the hours without bijli and the scent of overflowing gutters and the constant sweat and the sudden load shedding. No, you have nothing like that over there. Oh, said Tanya, why are you being so surreal? If you're missing it so much, then why don't you come here, huh? I said, being all romantic about black clouds and juicy mangoes from your air-conditioned condom, where bijli never goes and gutters never flood and everyone lives happily ever after. It's not like we don't have our challenges, Tanya sniffed. So go and do hello hi with your own challenges and leave us to our halats, I said. Okay then, be like that. Bye. And she slammed the phone. Good radiance वैसे, बड़ी आई cool breezes वाली, hypocrite.
What a delight it is to hear you read,
thank
Moni. I think there should be a session dedicated only to the reading.
Thank you.
So Moni, a little bit about the voice of Butterfly. How did you conceive it? Was it, I know that there was a column at the Friday Times, but as writers, we find our characters.
Yeah.
How was Butterfly conceived?
So I used to write a column for the Friday Times way back in the 90s called By the Way, and it was, my brief was to write in a light tone but about serious matters, and it was mainly targeted at women. So I used to write about my life as a single woman in Pakistan, and I wrote about my work and and how people are with you, and how in a plane you're always sitting next to women, and how you're pushed and shoved, but they will pick up your luggage for you at the airport and stuff like that. Anyway, after a while, I got bored of writing it because I was sort of constantly writing about myself, and this is in the days before Facebook, before you were constantly writing about yourself as a profession. So I felt that my privacy was being invaded, and I said to my boss that I didn't want to do it anymore. And he said that, you've already got readers, and it's very difficult thing to do to stop writing because the newspaper will lose readers. So even if you don't want to write this column, think of something else to write, but it should be funny, and it should be about, it should be social commentary. So I thought for a while, and I couldn't come up with anything, and then I went to a lunch in Lahore, and I was queuing. There was, it was like a buffet, and there were two ladies ahead of me, and I was standing behind them. And one of them was wearing a beautiful chiffon sari, and although it was December, she was wearing a sleeveless blouse with it, and her hair was kind of long and blow-dried and golden. And there was another lady behind her who was shorter and slightly heftier, and she was wrapped about 6 times in a chatouche, and she had big diamond earrings. And so she said to the lady in front of her, she said, I've just bought this chatouche. I've got 2 others also, but I got this because this one was 7 yards. Tumhare paas bhi honge, you must be having also. So the lady sort of said this, and she said, nahi darling, I don't wear shawls because bada maids wala effect aa jata hai na. And I thought to myself, this is the voice, these are the people, this is the content. And it just came to me at that time, and I've been writing it ever since. So that's how the voice came. And I also felt that if I'm writing it, then I should write it in that voice, and I should mix Urdu and English as we do. And because the butterfly is not particularly well educated or well read, she mixes up her words all the time, So that's what I did.
And I feel that that voice is so authentic because every line that you write, you never go out of character. Every word is kind of hilarious to read. So I want to also talk about the titles, how you use this technique, which is a contrast. There is
The headings.
the headings. There's stuff going on around the country, and then you talk about Butterfly's life. And that makes me think of our bubble, how we have also grown immune to the news. We kind of also carry on with our lives. And how did you sort of find that contrast?
So I would take a news heading, and sometimes it would have an impact on her. So for example, if there was a time when I remember in Lahore there were threats to schools, in Karachi as well, bomb threats. So naturally, she's a mother, so she would think about her child. So if there was a heading like that, then she would think about it. But if there was a heading like, say, an international recession, or maybe deaths in China, or earthquake or something, she wouldn't really think of that. So she would just talk about her manicure or her pedicure. Or if there was a bomb, say, in a particular part of Lahore, and that kind of worried her because her hairdresser was next door, and so her appointment would be delayed maybe. So she would think about it like that. Most people think actually about their lives in their own context. She's not alone in that. It's just that she is more sort of unfiltered.
I remember at a reading in Karachi, you said that, all of us are kind of guilty of such unworthy thoughts. That we know that this is happening, and yet we kind of worry about our little, circumference of events. Another thing that I'd like to touch upon is that the couple, Butterfly and Janu, they also in their sort of interaction raise a lot of questions for the reader. There is, their value system, how women are meant to look up to men, how Butterfly says that she doesn't burn her garbage, but she piles it up outside her neighbor's house, and she's very responsible that way, because she's not contributing to, the smog, the smock, as she calls it. And also how they treat their Christian help, which is that, she has help in the house, domestic help, and they drink out of a jam jar. And that got me really thinking of this class divide, and even how women are treated and accepted. It's also accepted by the situation that those women are in. How do you manage to do that in such a funny manner? It's just that they raise these questions, and I'm like, but I'm supposed to laugh. It's a funny way of sort of delivering that, but you do talk about those things.
Yeah, so I have now written 6 books, and looking back, I was thinking about my books as one body of work. And I think what is common to all of them are the interplay of gender, class, and power, and how that determines everyday life. Now, some people, because they're upper class and have more power, their gender doesn't seem to matter so much, but it does. And some people don't have those kind of privileges, and so their gender does matter a great deal, or their class matters a great deal. My attempt always has been to write truthfully. When people say to me that when they read Butterfly, they think they know people like that, or some people even say, I think of myself that you've written about me. I take that as a great compliment, because I think what they're saying to me is that it has the ring of truth. I've tried always to write as truthfully, as honestly, and as directly as I could. But the Butterfly columns have always been about social commentary. I don't think of them as chick lit. I have talked about global warming in them. I've talked about the Me Too movement. I've talked about COVID. I've talked about minority rights. I've talked about the growing threat from religiosity. And I think all of those things are about our everyday lives, about what makes us all tick, what makes us all, what characterizes our society. So even though it's funny, I still like to think of it as social commentary, but if somebody wants to read it as chick lit, that's fine by me too. You know, everybody has to read it by their own lights.
Moni, you also use a lot of wordplay in the book, like seizure salad and coffee in a petrolator. um, and I wonder that, you know, Butterfly, is it because of our colonial past that she doesn't know what those words mean, but she uses them, and out of context. How do you sort of portray that with her language?
Well, she's very eager to impress. And she is always wanting to use big words rather than small ones, even if she doesn't understand the meaning. She's not a reader, so she's constantly confused by what words go with in what context. And I think that is a way of creating humor. So one way is to use exaggeration, one is to use malapropism, one is to use absurdity. So that's another thing I do for her.
No, and it's really interesting because as you read, it also has a shock value.
Yes.
You know, you suddenly stumble upon something and you end up chuckling because you didn't expect it to come up in
in
situation.
that context, yes.
I mean, I hope you all get a copy. They're available here. It's a fantastic book. Can't say enough about it. So also, you also touched upon it a little bit, but in the publishing world, this book is what we'd call a genre bender, or a breaker even. Did you imagine that it would be so wildly popular and people would love it so much and you would have such a massive following with a book that, as a publisher, you would be like, okay, where do the comps sit? What the readership is, will it sell, you know, and it has done so well.
Thank you. When I started writing it, it was a column in the Friday Times, so I never really even thought of it as a book. I certainly didn't think of it as a commercial enterprise. I was in Delhi in 2007, and a publisher came up to me, from Indian publisher came up to me, and she said, at that time the column used to be lifted and published in an Indian newspaper, and she had read it, and she said, why don't you make a book out of it? And I said, who will read it? The columns are already out, nobody will read it. So she said, no, a book is different to a column. The newspaper gets thrown away, you forget about it. But when you put a lot of things together in a book, it forms something different and new. So think about it, write an introduction, write a conclusion, and then see if you'd like to do something with us. So I did do that, and because I was stuck in my next book, so I wrote the introduction, wrote the conclusion, edited it, and sent it to her. And it got published, and I sent it to 6 publishers, and 4 said yes and 2 said no. But I chose the publisher who was most enthusiastic about it, and she took it on, and she made it into really the success that it became.
And so let's talk a little bit about Ruby, the impeccable integrity of Ruby R, which has also been a recent book of Moni's. And we see similar themes, although that is satire, but not in a funny, humorous manner. But I do see similar themes of what in your writing. Would you like to talk a little bit about?
So Ruby R is a novel. It's a kind of state of the nation novel. It is set in current day contemporary Pakistan, and it's about populism, and it's about the threat, the dangers of social media. It is also about women in the workplace. It is about mental health as well. It's about generational change. It's very different in tone to Butterfly. But as I said earlier, my themes remain the same: class, gender, and power. And in Ruby, they are more obvious, more overt. it's a different kind of book, but I think it is probably, it's a book that I found difficult to write, and therefore it is very close to my heart, because it was more sort of, you know, thought out, it was more considered, it took me much longer. But I like it, and I would like you to read it and tell me what you think.
So I'm going to ask you, I think, one or two last questions now, before we open the floor. With the butterfly, because it's social commentary, have you ever had someone come up to you and say that they are in your book, or is it inspired by them? Has that ever happened?
Well, it's happened twice, once in a negative way and once in a positive way. Positive way was, I was at a dinner party, and a senior politician came up to me and said कि आप ज़रा मेरे बारे में लिखते हैं किताब में, कहें कि मैं parties पे जाता हूँ, मेरा image मेरा ज़रा ठीक नहीं है, तो आप लिखते हैं. So I was quite taken aback, and I thought, if you have to get Butterfly to do this for you, you must really be scraping the barrel here. And once, you know, I pick up names from, you know, when I'm talking about, you know, her friend Mallu. So her friend Mallu is married to a guy called Tony. Then she has a friend called Sunny, who's married to a guy called Akbar. So I make them up, you know, they're not people I know. And once I made up two names and I put them in, and it was kind of derogatory, and it turned out there were a couple in Lahore who were called those names. And they called my sister and they complained, and they said, अगर हमारे से कोई गिला है तो हमको खुद ही बता दें, ऐसे ना करें. So she said to me, you have to go and apologize. So I went and apologized, and I prostrated myself at her feet, and I said, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. That was 30 years ago. She still hasn't spoken to me.
So Moni, I just, at the top of my head, remembered this airport story that you were sharing. You said that you find inspiration, you know, in your daily interactions as well, and I'd really like you to share that.
Oh God, my poor husband.
And there are two airport stories. So one, when the lady came up to you and told you you were really smart.
Oh yes, yes.
That one and that one, both, they're very interesting.
You know, people keep asking me, where do you get your inspiration from? And I get my inspiration from everyday interactions in Pakistan. And I was just going to KLF, and I was sitting at the airport, and there was a lady who was sitting opposite me. She was sitting sort of halfway down this room, and she kept looking at me like this, like Pakistanis do, you know. And I thought, does she know somebody behind me? And I looked, and it wasn't, and then I thought she must be staring at me, so I checked myself. I seemed to be okay, but when I got onto the plane, I was putting my luggage up, and she came up, she was going past me, and she stopped. And there were a whole lot of people standing behind me, and she said, मैं आपको पता है airport पे देख रही थी. So I said, जी मैंने देखा. And she said, I was thinking you must be doing. And I said, doing what? Exercising, because you are smart. So I said, thank you very much. You are doing now? You should admit. I said, I do a little bit of exercise, not very much. She said, no, I'm thinking you are doing a lot. Okay, thank you. And then she went. But last year, we arrived in Lahore from London, my husband and I, and we were on the Virgin flight, and at the same time, a flight from Emirates arrived, and a Qatar Airways flight arrived, and you know Lahore airport can only manage one flight at a time. So all the luggage got messed up, it took a long time. Outside they'd announced that all the flights had arrived and Virgin had arrived, but nobody was coming out. So, and no explanation obviously had been given. So by the time we came out, we were one of the first. The plane had already sort of landed 45 minutes previously. So when we came out, we were pushing our trolley. A man grabbed my husband by the arm and said, "Sir, are you virgin?" And he said, "Yes, I am virgin." And we went past. And so I tweeted this story, and people laughed or whatever. And then 4 or 5 days later, Imran Khan made some derogatory comment about women, and I tweeted that, and I said, isn't this ridiculous? So I was trolled, as Butterfly says. So I was trolled, and I got a lot of abuse online. But one of the things that people said, one man said I loved, he said, if I was your husband, I would also be virgin. Which I appreciated. I thought it was at least funny.
Thank you so much, Moni. It's such a pleasure talking to you and listening to you.
Thank you.
I'd like to open the floor for questions if anyone has a comment or a question from Moni.
There's somebody on the stairs there. There's somebody there. Ji.
I must first admit that I have not read your work so far, but I have enjoyed the excerpts that you read out from your book.
Thank you.
And I would like to know more about it. So my question arises because I am a teacher and educationist, so I would like to know about the publishing and about the readership of your, because we know it's popular in Pakistan and is being published in India as well, you said. And you, I know a little bit about the background that you live in the UK, if I am not wrong. So is it available, is it marketable in the United Kingdom as well? One question. So would you be, would it be okay to call it diasporic literature as well? Or because you say it's social commentary, but it's fictitious characters. And there's lots of linguistic aspects that you highlighted about wordplay and which are kind of literary devices. So I guess this could be classified as diasporic literature. So what is your take on that?
So the book has been published in the UK as well. 2 of the Butterfly books have been published, The Diary of a Social Butterfly and Tender Hooks, which was called Duty Free in the UK. It was also Book at Bedtime on Radio 4 in the UK. I don't call it diasporic literature because even though I live abroad, the book is actually about Pakistanis in Pakistan. Occasionally when they go on holiday, it's about them being in London at that time, but basically it's about Pakistanis in the UK. My understanding of diasporic literature is Pakistanis or any other community which is living outside and writing about their experiences outside. So I'm going to write, I am writing a book now which is about diasporic Pakistanis in London, but this I don't classify, and also because I started writing it way before I went to the UK. It started, as I said, as a column in the Friday Times. So it's just been a continuation of that.
Sorry, can I just add on a comment? I agree with her because I feel like diasporic literature is more about the writer's experience being outside of their country. And your book is based in Pakistan. Both the books that we spoke about are Pakistani characters talking about Pakistani things. So it's not really, I think maybe doesn't qualify.
Thank you. Aapka sawal?
Good evening, everyone. So, Madam, you just said that you have written about multiple subjects. My question is about your creative process. Do you write about something that is already inside you and want to express that in your writing, or do you write more intentionally, like follow the trends, Me Too, and things like that? So, how's your creative process?
I'm so sorry, I didn't catch your question. Would you repeat it?
Can I come closer? Hello. So I said, my question is about your creative process. You just said that you have written about multiple subject matters, right? So my question is, do you write about something that's already inside? Like, do you write more spontaneously, or do you write intentionally and look for the trends like Me Too and things like that? So what's your approach actually?
So the butterfly columns, because they were newspaper columns, I would wait until, I think my deadline used to be a Wednesday. So I used to wait the whole week until Wednesday afternoon, and then I used to gather all the news, look at what had happened, and then write a response from the butterfly's point of view. So it was responsive. And I had thought of the issues a little bit, but by Wednesday it was crystallized in my mind. The other fiction that I've written, which is about, have story arcs and narratives and character arcs, those obviously I work longer on, and it's a process of editing and re-editing and recasting quite often. So it's a much longer and then sort of more painful process. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Yesterday I was very intrigued. There was a session with Omar Shahid Hamid, and he said that, because he's a police officer and he writes about crime. So he said that Hanif told him that that's not fair. You get all the experience and you write about it. But then I attended a session by the Nobel laureate, and he was talking about how he was born in Zanzibar and his life over there, and when he moved to England at the age of 18, his experiences of being, I think, a refugee or an immigrant. And he said that all that informed his novels. So I think that, I just want to ask you, does your lived-in experience also informs your novels?
Yes, it does, very much so. So my first novel, The End of Innocence, was it wasn't autobiographical because those things didn't happen to me, but the setting of the novel, the time of the novel, the characters the kind of characters I knew were based on the kind of characters I knew as I was growing up in rural Pakistan. After that, the butterfly, etc., obviously everything there is drawn from my own experience of Pakistani life in this kind of, as Safinah was saying, in this privileged bubble. My novel, The Impeccable Integrity of Ruby R, is drawn less from my own experiences, but it draws heavily upon my observations. And from what I understand, what I've understood work relations to be like in Pakistan, how I understand power relations in Pakistan, how I understand how patriarchy works in Pakistan, I put all of that into that book. So it doesn't have to happen to you, but it could have happened to people around you. And that too is part of your experience then, because it is a part of your perceptions, I think, and you internalize it.
If we could just end with another passage, so we leave with a lighter note.
Sure, I will read you a passage from, can you hear me? This is not working. Hello? Yes, you can hear me now. December 2020. Households suffer acute gas shortage in Peshawar and Karachi. Butterfly mourns Princess Diana. This is written during COVID, and the fourth season of The Crown had just come out at that time. Because I'm again under house arrest for this COVID ki second spike, I've been resuming myself by watching the latest season of The Crown. Wohi Princess Diana wala, between you, me, and the four walls. The earlier seasons were a little bit bored with all that dry, dusty stuff about history. I mean, who cares about history, yaar? Who remembers even? Apart from Buddhi Roo Janu, of course, who finds even a 100-year-old newspaper fascinating. Wese, to be honest, I did enjoy the wardrobes of the Queen and her family in those old episodes, particularly Margaret's, and also their jewelry and their big, big houses and their tabai rooms with 4-coaster beds, particularly the knocker chakers in suits and ties. Also, I discovered that Prince Philip's mother was a nun. Imagine she could have come and taught us at the Convent of Jesus and Mary in Lahore only, except that she would have taught mummy or even mummy's mummy, not me, since she was elderly type, na? Wese I thought nuns couldn't get married and have children. So how did she have Prince Philip then? I must ask Janu to explain, or maybe not, because he'll give me a 2-hour-long lecture. So anyways, this season though was the bye. Honestly, Diana Marhuma ko dekh ke I felt so bad, ke don't even ask. That Buddha Turkey husband of hers, the judgy Sadial Susral, that Asteen ka Saap Kamila, upar se being so friendly and sweet while creeping into her martial bed. Wese it reminded me so much of marriages here also, you know. Young, innocent girl married into big Khata Pita family who are all the time looking down on her and making her feel small. And husband cold and bored and ignoring and also carrying on with someone else. Naturally, she's going to have an affair with someone who cares for her then. Wese I wish Diana hadn't chosen her bodyguard to have a chakkar with. I mean, she's a princess, you know. I'm telling this to you only because even if I breathe it in front of Kulchu, he goes up the wall. Wese, you know, the boyfriend was security wala. So I was saying to Janu ki shame on royal family for treating Bichari Diana like this. And he said that we must remember that this is fiction and a TV program and that Diana was no saint also. I said, okay, if it's fiction and made up, then take a bet with me now only that she won't die in a car crash in a tunnel and that she'll live happily ever after with a Pakistani doctor in a model town ki koti. Wo to he wouldn't, na, dirpoke jaisa.
Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Moni. What a lovely session.
Thank you all. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.